In the dimly lit theatre, Leora danced with a grace that belied the chaos around her. Her movements were fluid and precise, each step marked by bloody footprints that guided her path. The air hummed with the shimmering energy of her rapier, its white polished blade slicing through the tension.
I shall have your head.
No, please, you're too powerful. Have mercy.
You threaten the lives of the glorious family. Your life is now forfeit.
With a quick flash of footwork, she countered invisible attacks before delivering a perfect swing at neck height. Her eyes followed the imagined head as it rolled onto the floor, a crazed smile creeping across her cheeks as she flicked her sword to the side, as if cleaning the blood from her blade.
For the family, I shall lay down my life. No foe shall stand against us, for we are the guardians of all that is just and true.
Leora's performance was a vivid tapestry of her fantasies, woven into every movement. She leapt across the stage, her rapier flashing like lightning, imagining herself the brave hero of her own story, defending the family against all odds. Her voice soared with dramatic flair, each word a testament to her dedication.
Together, we shall rise above the shadows and claim our rightful place.
Jeremias, meanwhile, stayed low, trying to appear non-threatening to the woman who was still recoiling from him. He instinctively reached for his cabinet, but quickly remembered he had left it in the town square. He looked around, eyeing anything he could use. His efforts were not rewarded, his fingers his only tool.
Almost there.
Raising one of his large hands to cover the woman's eyes, he used his dominant hand to gently pull and twist the nail from her arm. The nail pierced his finger, but his calluses held as he pulled it straight and then up. The woman began to squirm, biting and groaning into the fabric.
I can help. I swear.
For a brief moment, he felt the joy of his success, only for his mind to quickly count the remaining nails. Leora continued her performance, reciting and trying out new lines for her heroic moment.
Almost.
Leora perked up and turned to her captive audience, now fully seeing the large man there.
What is the meaning of this?
Leora flourished her sword before placing it back in her scabbard. Then she dropped from the stage and made her way down the aisle towards Jeremias.
They are hurt.
That's going to take you a while.
Maybe.
The woman, still trapped, recoiled more from Leora than the hulking man.
Everyone who's in pain deserves help. I have to try.
The woman in the chair let out a choked sob, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope. She looked at Jeremias with a glimmer of trust, despite the uncertainty. Her breaths came in short, ragged gasps as she watched him work, each movement a small spark of relief amidst her torment. Her gaze then shifted to Leora, and a fresh wave of dread washed over her. The woman's body tensed, her muscles quivering with a desperate need to escape, but the nails held her fast. A whimper escaped her lips, a plea for mercy that hung unspoken in the air.
Such a pitiful sight. But perhaps there's a lesson here for you, my dear. Pain is a teacher, and sometimes the harshest lessons are the most valuable.
She turned back to Jeremias, her eyes narrowing.
And you, good sir, are either very brave or very foolish. Which is it?
I'm just a man trying to help. Pain is pain, and it deserves to be eased.
The woman in the chair shuddered, a tear slipping down her cheeks as Jeremias finally freed another nail. She let out a soft cry, a mix of relief and lingering agony. Her eyes met his, and for a moment there was a silent understanding between them, a shared hope that this would end.
You are a curious one. What do they call you?
Jeremias. The alchemist, some others call me.
You, an alchemist? That is good comedy. My audience will find this part of my heroic ensemble quite amusing.
Jeremias paused, his hand still on the woman's arm, and looked up at Leora, his expression mixed with confusion and contempt.
You know, I didn't realize how entertaining this could be. Perhaps I should have invited more of an audience.
Leora rolled back over a few others still trapped in the seats, their collective groans echoing under her weight before she pushed off of them as if they were mere furniture. Jeremias paused, his brow furrowing as he watched Leora's careless behavior. He turned back to the woman he was helping, his confusion and anger growing with each passing moment.
Why do you mock them? Why don't you help?
I didn't know they needed it.
Jeremias' mind slowly began to piece together the fragments of the situation. He looked around the theater, his gaze landing on the dozens of people nailed to their chairs, their faces contorted in pain and fear. His confusion turned to anger as he realized the gravity of what was happening.
Did you do this?
Of course not. They were like this when I got here.
Jeremias stood up from his work, his confusion giving way to a deep-seated anger. He towered over Leora, his presence commanding and intimidating.
Telling lies, madam?
Of course not.
Then why don't you help?
Because I'm not a doctor. I would only be doing more harm than good.
You are not a good liar.
You wound me. But in this world, truth is a luxury, and I have no use for it.
With a swift, fluid motion, Leora lunged forward, leaping from the stage as her rapier sliced through the air with deadly precision. Jeremias, caught off guard, barely managed to dodge the blow, feeling the cold kiss of the blade as it grazed his already wounded arm.
You bleed so well. I expected more from a man of your stature.
Jeremias, undeterred, stood his ground. He raised his arms to cover his face, then with slow, calculated movements, he threw a few distracting punches. Every swing was a lesson on how she moved. She never tried to block his attacks, moving effortlessly out of the way of his wild swings. He now knew where she was going to be and struck, swinging again while grabbing with his other, trying to restrain her. She darted to the side, her rapier flashing as she slashed at Jeremias' arms, leaving thin red lines in her wake.
Come on, big man. Show me what you're made of.
Jeremias grunted. Swinging again, his blows again missed, would put her exactly where he expected. This time his hands closed around Leora's wrists as he tried to pin her arms to her sides. But Leora was too quick, too agile. She twisted and turned, her body moving like a serpent. Leora knew his intentions as she worked her arms into the man's blood, making her that much harder to get a grip on as she slipped from his grasp again. With a flick of her wrist, she sent her rapier spinning, the blade biting into Jeremias' shoulder. He hissed in pain, his hand flying to the wound, but he did not falter. Instead, he lunged forward, his arms wrapping around Leora's waist as he tried to restrain her once again. But the blood made it nearly impossible for his large hands to take hold. His breath coming in ragged gasps, he lunged forward, spreading his arms wide. Any way she dodged was still inside his large frame. He wrapped his arms tightly around her, trying to subdue her without causing further harm. But Leora was relentless, her elbows and knees finding their mark as she fought to break free. With a final desperate surge of strength, Jeremias managed to pin Leora's arms to her sides, his body pressing against hers as he held her captive. Leora, her chest heaving with exertion, looked up at him with a mixture of fury and amusement.
Is this what you wanted? To cause pain and suffering?
You have no idea what I want.
but I assure you, this is only the beginning.
Jeremiah squeezed tighter, the creaking of leather and metal heard from between his arms. Leora struggled, her eyes wide with sudden dread.
Please, stop!
Leora worked her arm just enough to find her belt, grasping the hilt of a dagger. She twirled it around her fingers and plunged it into the man's stomach. Jeremiah lurched from the sudden pain, but his grip grew tighter and his head lowered.
No more. No more pain.
Then a sudden snap as her metal armor collapsed in on itself. The immense strength of the giant severed her spine as the fear in her eyes turned to a glazed stare. Her lips turned blue as her body began to shut down. The theater, once a stage for Leora's twisted performances, now echoed with an oppressive silence. The air was thick with the scent of blood and the lingering hum of the rapier as it dropped to the floor, a haunting reminder of the violence that had unfolded. Jeremiah's mind raced, a whirlwind of emotions and thoughts as he tried to process the reality of what had just happened. He looked down at Leora, her body now still in his arms. The dagger, still embedded in his stomach, was a stark, brutal reminder of her final act of defiance. Jeremiah's wound pulsed with a throbbing pain, a constant, relentless ache that seemed to echo the agony in his heart. As he held her, Jeremiah couldn't help but wonder about the life she had led, the path that had brought her to this moment. Was she always a monster, or was she a victim like the others in the theater, twisted and corrupted by the darkness around her? He would never know the answers, and that uncertainty gnawed at him. The sound of a feminine voice broke through the haze of his thoughts, pulling him back to the present.
Let her go.
A gentle command that cut through the fog of his mind. Jeremiah looked up, his vision blurry with unshed tears, and saw a woman approaching him. Her arms were covered in holes where the nails had been, blood still pouring from the wounds.
It's over.
His body shivered when the woman placed a hand on his back.
Let her go.
This time, Jeremiah did, and the sound of shattered metal falling to the floor echoed through the hall.
She wouldn't stop.
Only a single tear dripped down the man's face before the determination returned. He observed her wounds and smiled weakly. He began to unwrap his furs, separating the least damaged straps. Then tearing cloth from his own clothes to make rustic bandages around the woman's arm. A soft smile still present as he looked at his work, oblivious to the blood now pouring from his once covered wounds. Jeremiah certainly gave her an approving nod before he went back to work. He approached the next captive and began pulling nails again with his fingers. The woman stayed for a brief moment before moving to the side of the stage where a box of tools lay. All was still bloody from their previous task. She grabbed the hammer, trying to wipe it clean as she returned to Jeremiah.
Use this.
Jeremiah took the hammer, using it like a surgeon, and began to pull the nails free much easier now. Each arm he freed, he took more of his wrapping away.
One more.
Let us help you. You're not going to make it if we don't stop the bleeding.
No. Save it. Just a couple more.
His world was a haze. The blood in his veins was thin as he tried to stabilize himself on aisle chairs. Then he collapsed in the aisle, blood drained from his uncovered wounds. The now freed audience gathered around him. Each tried to help pick up Jeremiah's large frame, though none had the strength. He could hear their mumbles efforts around him.
Get everyone out. Go quickly. I will stay for one more.
The crowd hesitated for a moment, unable to move, but as the doors to the theater opened, they all looked to see the hellish bovine helmets of the family's honor guard.
I know a way out.
The guards were about to give chase, but a harsh order from their leader gave them pause.
Hold. We don't need them now. Grab him. He's the only one we need.
Jeremias looked up, using the last of his strength to see a hopeful sight. A regal captain of Rostovka, his eyes sifting over the shapes of the bovine helmets behind the captain.
You have followed. I will hold them off.
Thalor kneeled down next to Jeremias, grabbing him by the ear and lifting his head. Thalor then grabbed at his own face, peeling it free as the visage of an old guard captain melted away, leaving only now the distinguished face of the Liaskan spy.
Traitor! Liar!
Thalor chuckled, drawing a dagger from his belt and plunging it into Jeremias' neck. Unceremonious and quick.
Do not struggle. I need a new face.
It did not take long before Jeremias' body went limp, now laying in a pool of what little blood his body had to offer. Thalor looked over his easy victim before slowly carving Jeremias' face from his skull. Like a hunter skinning a fresh kill, he cleaved the skin with ease, leaving no blemishes. He pressed the flayed skin over his own, strapping it around his head, positioning it perfectly as Thalor's body changed in mere moments, standing tall, his frame that of Jeremias, but without wound or blemish.
We must inform the family of Lyora's death.
The guards turned, heading back toward the square.
2 more to go.
Rupert stumbled through the shadowy streets, his vision blurring with each step. The poison in his veins burned like liquid fire, his blood thick and black, seeping into the snow beneath his feet. Every breath was a struggle, his lungs aching with each ragged inhale. The world around him spun, the buildings looming like twisted giants, their windows staring down at him with malevolent intent. The harsh wind whipped around him, cutting through his armor and chilling him to the bone. But amidst the howling gale, a faint sound caught his ear, the distant tolling of cathedral bells. The sound was a beacon, a promise of salvation in the heart of this nightmare. Rupert clung to it, using it as a guide, a reason to move forward. His journey was a test of will, a battle against the poison that sought to consume him. With each step, he pushed back against the darkness, his mind a whirl of memories and desperation. The bells grew louder, their rhythmic pealing cutting through the fog of his mind, anchoring him to reality. As he neared the cathedral, the weight of his wounds became almost unbearable. His body ached, his muscles screaming with each movement. With a final push, Rupert heaved open the heavy wooden door of the cathedral. It creaked open, revealing a scene of unspeakable horror. Crimson light bled through shattered stained glass, casting fractured halos on the cracked stone floor. A weathered altar sat beneath a mural of the Judgment Angel, its wings cracked and its sword broken. The once sacred altar was now a tableau of torment, the bodies of his Cassius brothers flayed and displayed like grotesque trophies, their skin pale and bloody, hung in tattered strips, revealing the raw, glistening flesh beneath. Their eyes wide and accusing, stared at the ceiling, frozen in their final moments of agony. Rupert's head hammered in his chest, a mixture of rage and despair threatening to overwhelm him. He took a step forward, his boots echoing in the vast, silent space. The high priest Corvain stood before the altar, his robe stained with old blood. He turned, a cruel smile playing on his lips, his eyes gleaming with a twisted satisfaction.
Rupert, the old wolf. I was wondering when you would join us. I must say, you look tired. The poison must be taking its toll.
Rupert's grip tightened on his sword, his knuckles white with effort.
What have you done?
What any true servant of the divine would do. I have brought them closer to the gods, closer to the truth of their existence. They are martyrs now, Rupert. Their sacrifice will not be forgotten.
Rupert's eyes flickered to the bodies of his brothers, the sight of their mutilated forms fueling his anger.
You're a monster.
No. I am a shepherd of the devout.
You'll pay for this.
Your mind is not your own, Paladin. You're in no position to make threats. Just look at you. Weak, broken, and with the twice-blessed prince's gift coursing through your veins. You're a shadow of the man you once were. And now you stand before me, defeated and helpless.
Corvain stepped down from the altar and approached Rupert.
You can't see that we have already won. The beast arose, the great Red Bull Phalaris, who will bring the blessings of Apollyon back to this world.
Rupert's head pounded in his chest, his mind racing with plans of vengeance.
It is unfortunate to see a son of Apocrypha die.
Rupert looked confused as he turned his gaze to the mutilated priest.
Apocrypha?
The rites you recited when you entered the square, they were of my tome. Do you not know what words you speak?
Rupert shuffled as he felt his body giving way, falling to the marble floor below.
It was read to me by a cleric of Cassius.
Curious, though. I thought you were one of my flock, a wolf in sheep's clothing. A prophecy so grand, like the coming of Phalaris, should not be forgotten, even if it drips from the tongue of heathens like you.
Corvain knelt down next to Rupert.
The only heresy is what you have done to my brothers.
You can join them in their eternal rest. I can provide that service. Or perhaps you'd like to watch as I desecrate their memories further?
Rupert's grip began to falter, his arms trembling.
Your reign of terror ends here, Corvain. Mark my words. I will see you pay for your crimes.
Blood had seeped through the seams of his armor, staining the stone beneath him. His skin was pale, sheened with sweat. Behind him, Corvain stood like a spider in the center of its web. He circled slowly, his staff tapping against the floor with a dull clack that echoed like a heartbeat.
Bled beneath moonlight, poisoned in the marrow, burdened by scripture too heavy for even your spine to carry.
He stopped beside Rupert and leaned in, his breath hot against Rupert's ear.
Yet still you kneel, biased to the last ragged breath. Tell me, dog, how many more heartbeats do you think Cassius will grant you? 20? 40? Shall we count them together?
I have enough left to bury you beneath the altar.
Rupert shifted, pain flickering across his face. He clutched at his side, blood seeping through his gauntlet.
Let us play instead. A verse for your life. One son of Apocrypha to another. One scripture, one answer. If your tongue holds true, I give you another moment of life. Fail, and I whisper a falsehood so beautiful. It will sing you to death.
He opened the black-bound tomb to a page brittle with age and inked in blood.
The shadow, with horns plenty, shall rise on the night of the dead moon, bearing red fur. Fire shall not wound it.
Rupert's mind flashed with images of the square, those cold yellow eyes looking at him from the top of the shrine, the family.
When the faithful gather, the veil between worlds shall thin, and the ancient ones shall take notice.
The stone floor beneath him began to crack. Corvain stood in amusement. Rupert's flesh remembering Iskander's whip and venomous teeth, again and again as if feeling them for the first time.
7 lashes for the beast that carries no soul. Each strike shall echo through the abyss.
What are you doing?
Rupert mouthed the words, counting in his mind. The ground continued to crack around him. Each strike in the square was felt again.
Bearing red fur.
Rupert's vision cleared as he saw his own blood soaking his fur cloak, matted and deep crimson.
Poetry in place of precision. How fitting for a dying paladin.
Save it!
Rupert exerted his last bit of strength as he fell silent on the floor. A long, relaxed breath came from his lungs, then nothing. Corvain turned, seeing no more movement.
What a waste of good suffering.
Corvain crept back to the altar, grabbing the chalice with one hand. Then approaching his bloody effigy, he held it high with the lid removed, catching the final drops of blood from the acolytes. Suddenly, as the cracks absorbed the blood of the paladin, glyphs on the floor began to flicker more rapidly, as if responding not to words but to pain or memory. Rupert's eyes rolled back, and a voice began to echo in the chamber. It was not Corvain's. It was not Rupert's.
When the shepherd bleeds, the flock shall see.
Corvain stiffened as he turned back to the corpse of the paladin. The flames shifted hue, casting a golden halo over Rupert's collapsed form. A fourth glyph appeared, crawling up the back wall behind the altar like ivy. The priest opened his tomb again, reading the scripture frantically.
This is not possible!
Rupert's form jerked as his arm reached forward onto the ground, fingers curling in the cracks in the floor. Corvain pulled his curled knife from his belt, dried blood rusting the blade as he approached Rupert.
This ends here!
Corvain plunged his knife down through a gap in Rupert's armor. The priest hissed with glee as he twisted the knife. His body relaxed, leaving the knife buried as he collected himself. Suddenly, with a quick turn, Rupert's body sprung to life, rolling over, and Corvain found his throat being squeezed in Rupert's gauntlet.
You're not... I'm not wrong. Apocrypha was prophecy.
No.
Rupert's eyes now resembled black pearls as the poison consumed his inside. Blood dripped from his eyes and mouth as his internals continued to liquefy.
It was a warning.
With another jerk, his other hand found the braided chains on Corvain's head. With a twist and a pull, he yanked the chains embedded in his skull, pulling the anchors from his head with blood and bone still attached. Corvain's eyes rolled back, convulsing as Rupert dropped the priest onto the floor.
Your death was too quick.
Rupert then turned his gaze to the desecrated altar. The acolytes hung like macabre decorations, then to the sealed chalice on top of the blood-soaked silk.
I may not know what you ask of me, but I follow without question.
Rupert climbed the few stairs to the altar, grabbing the bloody cup. Then, with the chains he still held, He made a cradle for the goblet and slung it over his shoulder. Rupert knelt in reverence to his fallen, before rising and turning back toward the door. His movements were uneasy, but he moved with renewed purpose. As Rupert stepped out of the cathedral, the wind howled with fury, as if the very elements were stirred by the revelation. The poison still raged within him, but it was now a familiar companion, a force that fueled his resolve rather than consuming him. Each step was a testament to his indomitable will, a promise of vengeance yet to come. Corvain's words echoed in his mind, a mocking chorus that only served to strengthen his resolve. As he moved through the city, Rupert's senses heightened, attuned to every whisper of the wind, every rustle of the snow. He could feel the presence of the Ancient Ones, their eyes upon him, their will guiding his steps. The beast within him stirred, a primal force that yearned for release, for retribution. His grip tightened on the chains that held the chalice, the metal biting into his flesh. The blood of his brothers cried out for justice, and he would be their instrument, their avenger. The city stretched out before him, a tapestry of light and shadow, of life and death. And at its heart, Rupert knew, for he was the beast, the chosen of Apocrypha, and his time had come. The faithful would fall, the warning that had been ignored for too long, and Rupert would be the one to deliver it.
I will not waste this extra time you gave me. I am the beast, and my sword will speak freely when the faithful are made silent.
in stained glass. With every step the earth is still. The saints bow low, the wicked spill. His voice a psalm, his gaze a knife. He brings no peace but sacred strife. So let the horn of justice sound and smite the serpent to the ground. Let fire fall on house and kin, where hearts are black with cloaked in sin. He bears the weight of prayers unprayed, the altar crimes, the debts unpaid. He is the law the prophets saw, the sword that speaks when priests withdraw.